The story you are about to hear comes from one of the most dramatic neighborhoods I have ever seen. And trust me, this one gets wild fast. Before we jump in, tell me which country you are watching my video from. And if you enjoy these HOA and Karen stories, hit like and subscribe for more. This one deserves a hype button because the ending is something nobody in that neighborhood ever expected. The trouble began the moment I moved into a quiet suburban street known for its trimmed hedges, perfect lawns, and a homeowners association that took itself far too seriously. The homes looked calm from the outside, but it did not take long to see that the rules ran deeper than the landscaping. At the center of it all was the HOA president, a woman everyone called Karen behind her back. She carried clipboards the way other people carried purses and treated the bylaws like a holy book she alone was meant to interpret. Things were peaceful during my first few weeks. I minded my own business, fixed up my home, and tried to meet a few neighbors. Most of them were friendly enough in distant, polite ways, but I noticed something odd whenever I talked to them. Their eyes flicked over my shoulder, checking if anyone was watching. Some kept their voices low, as if they were afraid of being overheard. The air on that street carried a strange tension I could not explain at first. The tension became clear the morning I trimmed a few branches from the tree in my front yard. 10 minutes into the work, I heard the sound of fast footsteps behind me. Karen marched straight up to me, holding her phone in one hand and the HOA handbook in the other. She did not need to speak for me to understand the message she tried to send. From that moment, she decided I needed to be controlled. She treated my simple yard work like a threat to neighborhood order. The following days brought a series of strange events. Neighbors who waved before suddenly avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when I approached. Notes appeared on my door reminding me about minor rules I had never even heard of. Someone even reported me for bringing in my trash bins an hour late. Everything felt coordinated, almost like someone worked behind the scenes to turn the whole street against me. It became obvious who led it. Karen walked around with more confidence than usual, almost proud of something she had accomplished. Her smile had a sharpness to it whenever I passed her. That was when I realized this was not about rules. It was about control and the pleasure she took in having everyone fall into line. And she had decided I would be her next target. The rumors started soon after. First, someone told me they heard I was planning to turn my garage into a rental unit. Then someone else said Karen warned them I kept breaking rules and ignored HOA notices. None of it was true, but the damage spread quietly, like small sparks turning into a slow burn. A few neighbors began watching me whenever I stepped outside, their faces tight with suspicion. The shift was so sudden I could not ignore it. I decided to document everything. Every strange notice, every petty complaint, every change in behavior. Something told me this situation went deeper than simple harassment. What bothered me most was how afraid the neighbors seemed. They didn't treat me like a rule breaker. They treated me like someone they had been told to avoid. And only one person had that level of influence. One afternoon, while organizing old HOA documents the previous owner left behind, I noticed a familiar signature on several fines. The dates went back years. The complaints looked almost identical to the ones I received. The format, handwriting, and tone lined up with the notices Karen had been sending recently. It appeared other residents had once been targeted the same way. I reached out quietly to a former resident whose name appeared on several old fines. He sounded cautious at first, but once he understood why I contacted him, he told me everything. Karen had a long history of running the HOA like a personal kingdom. She bullied residents with fake violations, pressured them into paying questionable fees, and threatened anyone who pushed back. Some moved away to avoid dealing with her. Others stayed silent out of fear. His final words stayed in my mind. He said she kept a double life, one face for the neighborhood, another for anyone who challenged her. That was the moment I knew what I needed to do. I spent weeks gathering proof. I looked at public records, old meeting notes, and financial reports the HOA had to share legally. What I found was worse than I expected. Several expenses were listed under vague categories that made no sense. Meeting minutes mentioned votes that never happened. Some signatures looked copied from old documents. Payments were made to companies that did not exist. It painted a clear picture. Karen didn't just like power. She used the HOA to fund parts of her personal life. The moment everything came together, I set up a meeting with the entire HOA board. I kept my tone calm and laid out the evidence piece by piece. The room grew quieter as the details unfolded. Faces shifted from confusion to shock to anger. Karen tried to maintain control, but her voice shook under the weight of facts she could not deny. The board demanded she step away from her position while an investigation took place. She tried to argue, but even her closest allies stayed silent. The news reached the neighborhood within hours. People who once avoided me started showing a different expression: relief. For the first time since I moved in, I saw them walk outside without looking over their shoulders. Whispers spread about the things they had noticed for years, but felt too afraid to question. Karen stayed locked in her home, her clipboard gone, her daily patrols suddenly missing from the street. The next HOA meeting brought the full reveal. The investigation confirmed everything: unauthorized spending, fake fines, manipulated records. She had used her status to maintain fear and control while benefiting personally from the funds she handled. Her double life was exposed in front of the same neighbors she once used to isolate me. She resigned. The board replaced her with someone who understood the value of fairness instead of fear. The neighborhood slowly returned to normal. People greeted me with genuine warmth now, not the forced politeness they once showed under her watch. The conflict brought the residents together in a way nothing else could. The street felt brighter, lighter, and more human without the shadows she cast. And though I never wanted trouble when I moved in, I learned that exposing the truth can sometimes pull a community out of the fog. If you watched until now, hit like, subscribe, and tap the hype button to keep these stories coming. And tell me which country you are watching from. More wild HOA stories are on the way.